Hey, you. You're finally awake.
G'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. We're looking at the PlayStation 1 today, and those video games which made you think that the PlayStation 1 was going to cave in on itself because it couldn't cope with what was going on, and it bridged that gap from the PlayStation 1 to the next generation of gaming. As always, this isn't a definitive list, this is just ones that I've picked out, and if there are ones I need to talk about, please put the comments in below. As always, if you really think I deserve it, please hit that like button, as that is what turns this into a hobby into one day a full-time job. You can also subscribe and hit the notification bell to be told when new videos are coming out. We've got the weekly podcast, and we've also got a free Discord, and the link is in the description below. I'd love you to join the Smut Squad. Right, let's get into it, shall we? Games that push the PS1 to its absolute limit. Alien Resurrection. Forget the mediocre movie it's based on, and it is a mediocre movie. Come on, let's compare this to Alien 2. It's a mediocre film. This game is a legendary piece of PlayStation history. Developed by Argonaut Games, it's famous for being one of the most atmospheric, terrifying, and technically advanced shooters on the console. It was so ahead of its time that critics actually hated it at launch for the reason that it's hilarious today. It used the modern twin-stick control scheme. Following the plot of the film, you play as a resurrected Ellen Ripley, and later other crew members like Cal and Christine, aboard a spaceship which has, surprise, become an infested death trap. This isn't an arcade shooter like Doom, it's a survival horror FPS. Resources are scarce, lighting is dynamic, and the sound design is built to make you jump at every metallic clank. It was one of the first games to mandate the dual-shock controller, using the left stick to move and the right stick to aim. At the time, GameSpot famously called the controls unusable, not realising they were looking at the future of every FPS game ever made. Alien Resurrection is good because it understood that a xenomorph shouldn't be cannon fodder, it should be a nightmare. Yeah, literally, you should poo-poo yourself whenever you see one. Argonauts squeezed blood from the PS1 hardware. The game features real-time lighting and shadows, flickering lights and particle effects like steam and sparks, that most people didn't think the PlayStation could handle. The environments feel claustrophobic, slimy, and lived in, perfectly capturing the industrial grime aesthetic of the Alien franchise. The xenomorphs don't just run at you in a straight line. They crawl on the walls, hide in the ceiling, and flank you. They're fast, quiet, and kill you in seconds. To be honest, it's not even kill you in seconds, it's kill you in a second. The game uses a fear system where the music and lighting ramp up based on your proximity to a threat, creating a level of tension that rivals Alien Isolation. And you'll often hear the aliens before you can see them. The hiss of the vent, the pitter-patter of claws on metal, and the iconic chirp of the motion tracker create a constant state of anxiety. Playing this game with headphones in a dark room is still a genuinely frightening experience today. Now, you don't just play as a generic soldier, swapping between characters gives you access to different weapons, from Ripley's pulse rifle and flamethrower to Christine's dual pistols. Every weapon feels heavy and dangerous, and the reload animations were incredibly detailed for the 30-bit 2 era. Nothing in the game though is more stressful than the facehuggers. They're tiny, fast, and they'll latch onto you. You've got a limited amount of time to find that medical bay to remove the embryo before it's game over. It adds a layer of biological horror that stays true to the source material. The game also knows when to be quiet. Long stretches of silence are broken by sudden violent outbursts of action. It captures the haunted house in space feeling better than almost any other licensed game from the period. Alien Resurrection is a misunderstood masterpiece. It was punished by critics in 2000 for inventing the control scheme we all use today, and Halo and Call of Duty owe it that depth. Although what do critics know? Come on. It's a dark, difficult, and visually stunning shooter that proved the PS1 could produce next-gen experiences even as the PS2 was launching. Chrono Cross. As the sequel to arguably the greatest RPG of all time, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross had an impossible task of living up to a legend. Instead of playing it safe, Square delivered a radical and visually breathtaking departure. It replaced time travel with parallel dimensions and a silent protagonist with a roster of 45 playable characters. It's a game about the weight of existence, the butterfly effect, and the beautiful blue of the ocean. You play as Serge, a teenager who slips into an alternative reality where he died 10 years prior. Pretty grim. To uncover the mystery of his own ghost, he must jump between homeworld and another world, accompanied by a sassy thief named Kid. It threw out the MP system for a stamina and elemental grid system. Every action consumes stamina, and spells are equipped into slots like a deck of cards. The soundtrack is also widely considered one of the greatest in human history, a soulful blend of acoustic guitars, violins, and Mediterranean folk music. Chrono Cross is a masterpiece of atmospheric storytelling. It feels less like a video game, more like a vacation to a beautiful haunted island. The brilliance of the game lies in seeing how the world changed based on one single event, Serge's survival. One world might be vibrant and peaceful, while its counterpart is dying or politically ravaged. Navigating these differences and seeing how NPCs' lives were altered creates a profound sense of what if. Chrono Cross is arguably the best looking game on the PlayStation 1. Square used pre-rendered backgrounds that look like oil paintings. The colour palette is heavy on teals, oranges and deep purples, making the tropical setting feel lush and inviting. The FMV sequences are still stunning as well over 20 years later. In a bold move, the game essentially removed levelling up through random battles, and you only gain significant stat boosts after boss battles, which are star levels. This means you never have to spend hours running in circles to get stronger, as the game is perfectly paced to your progress, allowing you to focus on the story and the strategy. The combat is a colour-coded chess match. Using too many blue elements turns the field effect blue, making blue spells more powerful and red spells weaker. You have to balance your stamina and predict the enemies at elemental affinity, making every boss encounter feel like a tactical puzzle. While some critics felt the roster was too big, it gave the game a Pokemon-like collection element. You could recruit a voodoo doll, a French chef, a lucha libre priest, or a pink dog. Let's go with a dog. Each had their own level 7 tech and unique dialogue, giving the game immense replay value through its New Game Plus mode. Now underneath the bright sunshine and catchy music is a very dark, complex story. It explores the consequences of the first game's heroes and asks difficult questions about whether humanity deserves to survive. It's a destruction of the RPG genre that rewards players who pay close attention to the deep lore. Chrono Cross is the art house sequel. It didn't just want to be Chrono Trigger 2, it wants to be its own philosophical experimental journey. It's a game of incredible beauty and deep sadness, featuring a combat system that still feels fresh and a soundtrack that'll stay in your head forever. It's the ultimate summer RPG. Dino Crisis 2. While the first Dino Crisis was essentially Resident Evil with dinosaurs, it really was, and you should all listen to this week's podcast episode because I am doing the original Dino Crisis. Regardless, Dino Crisis 2 did a complete 180. Capcom realised that fighting a Velociraptor shouldn't be a slow exercise in door opening, it should be a high-speed exercise in firepower. It shifted the genre from survival horror to arcade action, creating one of the most satisfying combat loops on the PlayStation 1. 1 year after the first game, an entire military research facility and town has vanished into another time period. You play as Regina from the first game and Dylan, a heavy-hitting soldier, to rescue soldiers and recover data. It's a fast-paced shooter with fixed camera angles. You kill dinosaurs to earn extinction points, which you then spend at computer terminals to buy better guns, upgrades and ammo. It feels like an 80s action movie. The jungle is bright, the explosions are huge, and the dinosaurs are relentless. Dino Crisis 2 is a masterpiece of game feel. It's designed to make the act of pulling the trigger feel as rewarding as possible. The combo system is what sets the game apart. As you kill dinosaurs without taking damage, your combo counter goes up, multiplying your extinction points. This turns the game into a high-stakes dance. You aren't just trying to survive, you're trying to look cool while you're doing it so you can afford that anti-tank rifle. Unlike Resident Evil, Regina can move while she shoots, thank God, with certain weapons. She can also dual-wield pistols or use a submachine gun. The controls are snappy and responsive, allowing you to quickly pivot and blast a raptor that's leaping at your throat. Remove the clunkiness of survival horror to make room for pure skill. The arsenal in this game is credible, not the football team. You have Dylan's massive solid cannon and chainsaw, and Regina's flame launcher and heavy machine guns, well that would have been handy in the first game. Each weapon has a distinct impact on the dinosaurs. Small raptors get sent flying, while the larger Allosaurus requires sustained heavy fire. Buying a new gun feels like a genuine power-up and makes you laugh your way to the bank. Now the game also doesn't stick to raptors like the first game. You fight underwater dinosaurs, pterodactyls in the sky, and a massive Gigantosaurus which makes the T-Rex look like a puppy. The encounter design keeps you on your toes, constantly throwing new threats at you. And the game almost never slows down. Puzzles are kept to a minimum and the environments transition quickly from lush jungles and research labs to underwater bases and volcanoes. It's a 4 to 6 hour ride that has absolutely zero filler. And once you beat the game, you unlock Dino Colosseum and Dino Duel. These modes allow you to play as the dinosaurs themselves in a fighting game style arena. Want to see a T-Rex fight a Triceratops? Then why not? Because they never would have met in real time. Yeah, they wouldn't, they're millions of years apart. Dino Crisis 2 is the ultimate popcorn game. It's loud, fast, and incredibly fun to replay. It took a gamble by ditching its horror roots, but in doing so, it found a unique identity as one of the best arcade-style shooters of its generation. It's the kind of game that makes you wish Capcom would bring the extinction point system back today, or just the series back today. Vagrant Story. Released by Square, the absolute zenith, well, that's a big word, of the PlayStation's lifecycle, Vagrant Story is a dark, sophisticated anomaly. This game ditched the standard party of heroes trope for a lonely, cinematic and mechanically dense dungeon crawl through the cursed city of Leomond. It is widely considered one of the most stylish and technically impressive games ever made for a 32-bit hardware. You play as Ashley Riot, a wristbreaker, sent to a ruined city to investigate a cult leader and a kidnapped nobleman. The story is a mature political thriller involving magic, memories, and the nature of the soul. It's a 3D action RPG that uses the unique target sphere system. And when you attack, time freezes, which lets you pick which body part you want to hit, like the head, the limb, or the tail. And there are no shops in this game. You must survive entirely by looting materials and forging your own weapons and armor at workshops found throughout the city. Vagrant Story is a prestige game. It feels like a high-budget film where every camera angle and line of dialogue was meticulously crafted. The game uses the in-game engine for all its cutscenes, featuring speech bubbles that give it a sophisticated comic book or graphic novel aesthetic. The character designs are iconic, featuring heavy shadows and detailed textures that make the PS1 look like a PS2. The way the camera swoops and pans during dialogue was years ahead of its time. The combat is a brilliant balancing act. As you land hits, your risk meter fills up. High risk makes you deal more damage and land more criticals, but it also makes you a glass cannon. Your defense drops significantly and you become much easier to hit. Managing your risk creates a constant heart-pounding tension in every encounter. The game is essentially a math-heavy combat sim, which I like. Every weapon has affinities for certain enemy types and elements. If you use a sword to kill 100 dragons, that sword becomes a dragon slayer. You don't just find a better sword, you build one through experience and killing the shit out of things. While combat is turn-based at its core, it requires rhythm game reflexes. By timing your button presses correctly, you can chain attacks together indefinitely or use reflect abilities to bounce damage back at bosses. It turns a tactical RPG into a test of focus and timing. Now let's be honest, the city itself is a character. The crumbling cathedrals, damp wine cellars, and some beach streets feel heavy with history and dread. The sound design is minimal but effective, with reverb-heavy footsteps and distant moans make the sounds feel oppressive. It's one of the most atmospheric environments in gaming history. And unlike many RPGs of the era, there are no random encounters. Every enemy is hand-placed and every room is a puzzle, both literally with block-shifting puzzles and figuratively with combat. It's a dense, focused experience that respects the player's intelligence and time. Vagrant Story could be seen as the Dark Souls of the PlayStation 1, not just because it's challenging, because it's a lonely, atmospheric journey through a ruined world that requires you to master its complex system to survive. It's a work of art that pushed the hardware to its absolute limit, offering a story and aesthetic that remained unmatched in the genre. Metal Gear Solid, we all know this game was going to appear on the list. Before Metal Gear Solid, cinematic in games usually meant grainy live-action video or stiff text boxes. A certain Hideo Kojima changed everything by using the game's own 3D engine to direct scenes like a Hollywood blockbuster. It didn't just give you a mission, it gave you a codename, a cigarette, and a philosophy. It's a game that proved video games could be highbrow entertainment without losing their sense of play. You are Solid Snake, a retired super spy pulled out of his Alaskan cabin to infiltrate a nuclear weapons disposal facility on Shadow Moses Island. A renegade special forces unit, Foxhound, has taken hostages and is threatening a nuclear strike. This is a tactical espionage game. Your goal is to avoid detection, not engage in open warfare. You even have a radar to track enemy vision cones and a codec to communicate with your support team. The game constantly messes with your head, breaking the fourth wall and making you, the player, a character in the story. Metal Gear Solid is a masterpiece of meta-narrative. It uses the physical console and player's own habits as part of the gameplay. This is the first time voice acting in a game felt real. David Hayter's gravelly Snake, Christopher Randolph's nerdy Octagon, and the haunting device versions of the Foxhound bosses set a new standard. For many players, this is the first time they felt a genuine emotion connection to 30-bit 2 polygons. Kojima really used the hardware as a gameplay mechanic. To defeat the psychic boss, Psycho Mantis, he read your mind by listing other Konami games on your memory card and moved your controller using the DualShock vibration. Most famously, he forced you to physically switch your controller to port 2 so he couldn't read your moves. It was a moment of pure genius that gamers still talk about decades later. In one of the most famous and frustrating puzzles in history, an NPC tells you that a vital radio frequency is on the back of the CD case. Players search the game world for a CD case for hours before realising they actually meant the physical plastic case the game came in. It was a brilliant way to bridge the gap between the game and reality. Well, imagine if you've got a port of the game, not on a case. Shit! Oh, hang on, we've got the internet. Now, the stealth mechanics in this game felt alive. Guards would see your footprints in the snow, hear the clack of your boots on metal grates, or notice the steam from your breath in the cold. You could hide in a cardboard box to hitch rides on delivery trucks, or knock on walls to lure enemies into traps. It turned every room into a tense, high-stakes puzzle. Every boss in Metal Gear Solid had a backstory and a soul. From the honourable Sniper Wolf to the gunslinging Revolver Ocelot. You aren't just killing villains, you're ending the lives of complex soldiers who often shared their dying philosophies with you. Their death scenes were long, dramatic, and surprisingly touching. This game used camera angles like the corner view, where Snake presses against the wall to create a sense of cinematic tension. The use of lens flares, moody lighting, and a dynamic score that ramped up when you were spotted created an atmosphere of cool that no other game on the PS1 could match. Metal Gear Solid is a game that grew the industry up. It tackled the themes of nuclear war, genetic destiny, and the trauma of war, all by being an incredibly fun stealth action game. It's the definitive cinematic experience that paved the way for every story-driven game we play today. Final Fantasy IX. Yes, I know for anyone wants to comment, this is a super duper version of Final Fantasy IX, not the PlayStation 1 looking one. This was just the footage I had, okay? Shout at me in the comments. After the sci-fi grit of Final Fantasy VII and the teen drama realism of Final Fantasy VIII, Nintendo-era fans were starving for fantasy. Square responded by creating a love letter to its own history. Final Fantasy IX can be seen as a best-of compilation that returned mages with pointy hats, knights in shining armour, and a world where airships are fueled by mist. It's widely considered the most charming and emotionally consistent entry in the series. You play as Sedaine Tribal, or is it Sedan? I always said Sedan, but I actually think it's Sedaine. Someone again could tell me in the comments. Who's a monkey-tailed thief travelling in a theatre group. The plan? Use a stage play as a distraction to kidnap Princess Garnet of Alexandria. The twist? She wants to be kidnapped. Each character has a fixed classic job class. Sedaine, Sedan, whatever is a thief. Vivi is a black mage. Steiner the goat is a knight. No more anyone could do anything systems. Your team's identity matters. This game looks like a storybook but feels like a Shakespearean tragedy. It's a game that asks, what does it mean to exist if you were born to be a weapon? Final Fantasy IX succeeded by being the coziest RPG on the console, while hiding some of the darkest themes in the franchise. Instead of slotting materia or junctioning magic, you learn skills directly from your gear. If you equip a Silk Robe, Vivi can use the Thunder Spell. If he wears it long enough to earn AP, he masters it and keeps it forever. This makes every piece of loot feel like a permanent upgrade and rewards you for keeping your old gear until everyone has learned its secrets. Now, the active time events was a revolutionary narrative tool. While exploring a town, a prompt would appear allowing you to see what other party members were doing elsewhere. You might see Steiner getting bullied by locals, or Vivi getting excited about shopping. It made the party feel like a group of individuals with lives of their own, rather than just followers trailing behind the protagonist. While Sedan, I'm going with Sedan, leave me alone, is the lead, the heart of the game is Vivi, and oh my god it is, a timid little black mage. His journey, discovering essentially as an automation with a limited lifespan, is one of the most heartbreaking and beautiful character arcs in gaming history. He represents the game's core theme, finding purpose in a world where everything is temporary, and oh my god, his story has a lot of resemblance to my own. Although I'm not an automated weapon, although I am a bit of a weapon. That's not what my wife would say. Regardless, he has a great story. The Mist Continent is incredibly evocative. From the rainy, perpetual twilight of Amicia to the high-tech clockwork city of Limblum, every location feels like it's 1,000 years of history. The pre-rendered backgrounds are the pinnacle of the PS1 art, filled with tiny animations and have field icons that make exploration feel interactive. After 2 games of 3-person squads, Final Fantasy IX brought back the 4th character battle party. This allowed for a much more strategic depth, as you could finally have a dedicated healer, a tank, a mage, and the thief all at screen at once. And we all know who those 4 characters are, and we all do that as our main party, let's be honest. It made the combat feel balanced and traditional in the best way possible. Whether you were hunting for treasure with the Chocobo Hot and Cold game, or obsessing over the Tetra Master card game, although nowhere near as good as Triple Triad, you can shout me in the comments, but you know it's true. The world of Gaia was packed with distractions. It even included a secret 12-hour speedrun challenge to get Steiner's ultimate weapon, the Excalibur II. Final Fantasy IX is a warm hug of a game. It's a celebration of everything that made the 90s JRPGs era great. Memorable characters, and a sweeping Nobuo Uematsu score, and a story that isn't afraid to be funny, weird, and devastating all at once. It's a game that Sakaguchi, the creator of the series, famously called his favourite. And finally, Final Fantasy VII. What? How can you say this is the game that pushes the console to its absolute limit? Well, I ask you the question, how in the world is a PlayStation 1 meant to run when it's trying to process these bad boys?
Really?
Yeah, sorry, I'm so mature, we all know this. And seriously, finally, Tekken 3. In the late 90s, the arcade to console port was the ultimate test of a system's power. Most ports were compromised, but Namco pulled off an absolute miracle. They didn't just bring Tekken 3 to PlayStation, they arguably made the home version better. It's the game that defined the 3D fighting genre, trading the floaty physics of earlier games that it really was, for a fast, bone-crunching and incredibly fluid style that still feels modern today. Set 20 years after Tekken 2, a new generation of fighters enters the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3 to stop Ogre, a god of fighting who's hunting the world's best masters. The game introduced the series mascot and poster boy Jin Kazama, along with fan favourites like Eddie Guardo, Hwoang, and Brian Fury. This was also the first Tekken to truly master the sidestep. It transformed the game from a 2D fighter in 3D clothes into a true 3D brawler where positioning and the Z-axis movement were essential. Tekken 3 is a masterpiece of impact. Every punch feels like it has weight, and every victory feels earned through rhythm and reflex. While many PS1 games struggles to hit 30 frames per second, Tekken 3 ran at a buttery smooth 60 FPS. To achieve this, Namco used high-resolution 2D backgrounds instead of 3D ones, focusing all the console's power on the character models. The result was a game that looked and moved better than almost anything else in the market. The 4-button system, one for each limb, is the most innovative control scheme in fighting games. A total beginner can pick Eddie Guardo and look like a capoeira master by just mashing buttons, but a professional could spend years mastering Jin's frame data or King's legendary multi-throw chains. It's the ultimate party fighter that secretly hides a professional sport. Namco just didn't give us a fighting game though, they included a full-blown side-scrolling beat-em-up. Tekken Force played like a 3D Streets of Rage, allowing you to take your favourite fighter through stages of henchmen and bosses. If you beat it 4 times, you unlock the secret character Dr. Bosnovich. In one of the weirdest and beloved fluff modes in history, Tekken Ball turned the game into a high-stakes beach ball volleyball match. You dealt damage to your opponent by hitting a ball with powerful attacks. It was hilarious, addictive, and the only way to unlock the tiny flatulent dinosaur Gon, and I know there are copyright legal issues, but I want to see that thing come back. From the tribal tattoos to the urban industrial soundtrack, Tekken 3 bled 90s cool. The FMV endings were some of the highest quality on the system, giving each character a satisfying and often bizarre conclusion to their story. The game featured everything from a schoolgirl, a cyborg ninja, to a wood mannequin that copied everyone else's moves. There was a character for every personality and every playstyle. Tekken 3 is the gold standard of 30-bit 2 era. It's a game with simply no fat. Every mode is fun, every character is iconic, and the gameplay is so refined that it remains playable in a competitive setting even decades later. It wasn't just a fighting game, it was a cultural event that cemented the PlayStation's dominance. And that's it, a list of games that pushed the PS1 to its breaking limit. What do you think of this list? Are the ones I need to talk about? Well, if so, put them in the comments below, or tell me about your experiences with these games, and I want to hear them. Until then, I'll see you all in a few days. My name's been Danny, you take care of yourself, bye bye.